we gave you the BYU Sports Nation Karma.
You did.
Have you noticed?
I've noticed nothing.
We're here with Bronco Mendenhall, head football coach of BYU. Let's start with that. We gave you BYU Sports Nation Karma last interview. Have you noticed a significant difference in your life?
I think it's false advertising. I think the karma that you're saying that you give, I don't think there is any karma. There is any such thing. And it is a nice marketing ploy, but I don't feel a thing. And I'm just saying it like it is.
What would you say to knowing that Jamal Williams, after he came on our show, ran for 182 yards against Texas? And that was the beginning of this.
I would say that he had a great week of practice. And had he not gone on your show, he might have rushed for 50 more, other than having to balance an extra thing.
Okay, well, after you beat UConn, we'll have this discussion again.
We'll see.
Okay, yesterday the depth chart is released, and everyone gets really excited. Like, oh, here it comes. Broncos released the 2 deep. But then you come out and say, well, it's fluid, and it could have changed by the time that I
It might have changed already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you approach UConn, now how many more changes do you anticipate on that depth chart before you kick off?
Well, there's been another one at least today in practice, and so we have another practice tomorrow and then another one at UConn. And so season openers are volatile, and as much as you think you know your team and putting them in various situations, you never know. And so there could be still a change or two left.
There have been a couple of buzzwords around fall camp, depth and health. How would you address both of those words right now for BYU football?
Probably better than what we've had the majority of years that I've been the head coach. We have better health, not perfect health, and more depth, not perfect depth, but going into the opener, I feel good.
No Harvey Jackson, who's a transfer from Nebraska and obviously a great talent. We didn't see Trey Dye on the 2 deep, Trenton Trammell. Does that speak to the depth that you have on this football team?
It does, and it also shows that 2 deep doesn't mean those are the only players that are going to play. And so there are some positions where you'll see 3 deep and more than 2 deep listed that are actually playing in the game. And so Harvey Jackson might be at nickel, Trey Dye might be in the slot. There might be positions that we even play him at that aren't listed on the 2 deep for the sake of saving space. So we have options, which is nice. And again, we have some players that are hurt, some players that have made poor decisions, a poor decision or 2 in the off season that will prevent them playing in the opening game. After that all sets out, by about game 3, you end up having a more true 2 deep.
Okay. The offensive line, we noticed a number of oars that we have.
Not the kind in the water.
No, not the kind in the water.
Which is kind of symbolic, because those bigger guys usually were the ones rowing. And
they're doing the hard labor.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Manpower.
So that is a nice little tie-in there.
Yeah.
See, I like you for that reason.
Well, I mean, you just left it wide open, so I have to anyway.
You said you want to remove a few of those oars. There's a legitimate situation that you could have 3 freshmen starting on the offensive line. Have you ever encountered that as a head football coach?
I haven't, and normally the thought of freshmen playing anywhere, a significant amount, makes you kind of nervous. But when you're playing up to 100 plays offensively, or kind of starts to be part of the equation of a 300-pound guy playing up to 100 plays, that starts to be bordering on realistic. And so if you happen to have depth, I'd rather have or at maybe 3 places than 5. I'd rather have it at 2 than 3, but right now it's, I think, 4 or 5 as we have oars in the water.
Okay, let's talk about the UConn Huskies. We learned from reading their different reports and from their head coach that it's very likely you'll see 2 quarterbacks. In fact, they're kind of married to that situation right now. Have you ever encountered, as a defensive coordinator or as a head coach, a situation where it has created problems for you facing 2 different quarterbacks?
Only for the standpoint if the diversity of how they play is so distinct. And usually what that is then, what the defense usually benefits by is in the execution or lack thereof by 2 separate systems, because you simply don't have time to practice it. However, if there's a quarterback that can create, the execution sometimes can suffer because of his ability just to create and do his own thing. And so in the situation where there is a pocket passer or a traditional quarterback, and if the complementary quarterback is a mobile creation-based quarterback, then you have sometimes a separate plan or elements of a separate plan.
Do you feel like it creates any sort of advantage for you knowing that they don't have a guy?
Sure, because in the critical moments you want a guy, and once you pick the guy, half the team thinks it might be the other guy. and so harder to have unity and chemistry.
I'm guessing, having experienced that yourself, you've learned a few things about
It's
that.
really difficult, and a lot of times they're very good players. It could be James Luck, Riley Nelson. It could be Jake Heaps, Riley Nelson. I mean, at one point it was John Beck or Jason Beck, or Max Hall or Jason Beck. I forget, and a fine line separates them. And you try to do your best job in practice to see how that's going to work. Sometimes you need game time to determine that. The games actually count, and that's difficult.
What do you feel right now, 72 hours-ish away from UConn? Like, what do you go through now that you're a veteran at this?
It's similar each year, so there's certainly uncertainty. I never know exactly how we're going to play in the opener, nor really in any game. But I know how they practiced, and I know they're willing. So I know we'll try hard, and I know they'll give great effort. Where the execution stands, we'll find that out. Where the new players and how they perform, we'll find that out. How UConn is, who knows?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of uncertainties, which just means I think what we can control is how hard we try, and that really is what we can control. And in practice, what work they've put in, that will show in the opener. And I think we practiced pretty well.
Is it Christmas morning for you, opening game?
Yeah, it's Christmas morning, and it's not just seeing what's in the present, it's like how many presents and what's in each one. And sometimes it's play by play and quarter by quarter, and sometimes there's the present that it's, I love the thought, but it really isn't what I wanted. And sometimes there's it's exactly what I wanted, and there's probably a mix of things that happen all along the way.
Okay, last question I want to ask you. If there were one significant change that we're going to see between the opener at Virginia this year and the opener at UConn, other than the monsoon situation, which we're being told is not going to happen, what would it be within the program?
And I sure hope it's we score more points. That's what I hope for all of us.
Very good.
I might smile on the sideline.
What?
Yeah, that would. I'm not committing. I'm just hinting that might happen. At some point, from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, there actually might be a smile on the sideline.
You heard it here from Bronco
worth
Mendenhall.
watching.
Tune in, BYU and UConn on Friday. You can watch it live on ESPN 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain. Countdown to kickoff on BYU TV starts at 4 Mountain.